There is a dog working a patch of ground in southeast Queensland. His name is Banjo. You would not look twice at it. Dry grass, a paling fence, a corrugated roof ticking in the heat. Somebody's back paddock. The ground has already been treated, baited months back. On paper, this patch is finished. The dog is not looking for an invasion. The dog is checking whether the last one actually ended. Every episode so far has been about catching something on the way in. A beagle at a luggage carousel, a row of beehives at a wharf sitting there as bait. This one asks a harder question. How do you know it worked? Red imported fire ants, native to South America, first identified in Queensland in 2001. They are small, coppery brown, and the biggest of them is about the size of a grain of rice. Hold that in your head because it is the whole problem. A fire ant nest looks like a patch of loose dirt. You have almost certainly walked past one. Here is what they can do. Fire ants thrive in 97% of Australia's environments. 97%. Not just the tropics, not just the coast, your street. And they do not walk to your street. They ride soil, hay, mulch, turf, potted plants, dirt stuck under a machine. The program's own words, human-assisted movement is the biggest risk to their spread. They do not march, they get a lift, possibly in the back of your ute. Before the numbers get any worse, Digby would like you to meet who already lives on this ground. An echidna, a pincushion with a nose shuffling through the leaf litter like it has nowhere in particular to be. And a platypus, which looks like somebody made it up and got away with it. They were digging this dirt long before anyone drew a containment line on the map. So why does any of this justify a dog? Because of what a sting feels like. It is not a bite. It is a burn. That is where the name comes from. And they do not come one at a time. Brush a nest and they come up your leg together, and then they sting together. On livestock, stings to the eyes can cause blindness. Picture an animal standing in a paddock that cannot see. Sometimes it comes back. Sometimes it does not. For you, experts told a parliamentary inquiry in 2024 that up to 2% of stings cause a systemic allergic reaction, running as far as anaphylaxis, and up to 7.5% of people stung will seek medical help. But the thing that lands hardest is not a statistic. The program lists what changes if eradication fails. Playing sport, parks, beaches and playgrounds, mowing the lawn, letting an animal roam. Read that list again slowly because it is not a list of industries. It is a list of ordinary Saturdays. That is what is actually being defended here. Not a crop, a backyard. So how do you find something the size of a grain of rice? The containment area runs from Moreton Bay in the north down to the Tweed in the south. 3 ways, and the first one is a plane. Aircraft surveillance started on the 1st of July 2024. The planes fly at 230 metres, 750 feet. They are not photographing ants. From up there you could stare straight at a nest and see nothing. They are reading heat. A nest sits warmer than the ground around it. All that movement down in the dark, and it glows. Then comes the part worth sitting with. An artificial intelligence algorithm shortlists the possible nests, and then a human being drives out and stands on the spot. The algorithm identifies possible nests, which its teams then validate. Every single one. A machine narrows it down. A person confirms it, on foot, in the heat, on somebody's nature strip. That is not distrust of the machine. That is what proof costs, and you are paying for it. The second layer walks. Trained eradication officers on foot across your suburb. Not a survey from the road. A search. And the third layer has a nose. Odour detection dogs. They work the things you move. Soil, mulch, quarry product, turf, machinery. In August, Dog teams ran compliance tracing across central Queensland. It began with a detection at Moranbah, traced back to the movement of bricks. Bricks, carried out of a fire ant biosecurity zone and onto a mine site. Move material out of one of those zones without following the rules, and it is not a paperwork problem. The penalty runs past $500,000 or 3 years in prison. The dogs found fire ants at several mine sites, outside the containment area. And then there is the detail this whole episode turns on. At one of those sites, the dogs found foraging fire ants on ground where the pest had been detected the year before. Ground already under eradication treatment. The program does not hide it. It states plainly that it is not uncommon to find foraging ants in areas receiving eradication treatment. Read that again. The treatment is running. The bait is on the ground and the ants are walking over the top of it. That is not a scandal. That is the reason for the layer nobody pictures, the one made of time. Here is the real shape of eradicating a fire ant. Up to 6 rounds of broad-scale treatment, over 2 years. Then 5 years of intensive surveillance. 5 years of going back to look after the treating has stopped. 7 years, on one patch of dirt like yours. And it reaches every targeted property, whether ants are visible or not, whether anyone thinks they have them or not, including yours if you live inside that line. Which brings you to the 9th of June, 2026. A single fire ant nest at Kunda Park, on the Sunshine Coast, outside the containment boundary, found by dogs, destroyed the same day. That is what the third question looks like when the answer is no. None of this is cheap, and this is the part where you should start paying attention. The current response plan runs to 2027 and is worth nearly $600 million. Surveillance on its own, just the looking, not the treating, is budgeted at about $12 million in the final year. $12 million a year to check. You are paying for that. Every one of those dollars is public money, so you might reasonably want to read the plan. You cannot. The program's own website says so. The full response plan is unable to be published, as it is currently cabinet in confidence. Nearly $600 million of your money, a national program running through your suburb, and the plan itself is closed. So, is your money working? The honest answer comes from the program itself. No other country in the world has successfully eradicated an incursion as large as the one in Queensland. Many countries, including the United States and China, have given up. Nobody has ever done this. And the countries that tried before Australia stopped trying. Australia has not stopped. And there is a date on it. The stated mission is to eradicate fire ants from Australia by 2032. Not contain, not manage. Eradicate, by a year you can already picture. Here is what that date is actually protecting. A kid running across a lawn in bare feet, a dog led off the lead, sitting down on the grass at a park without checking it first, and the echidna you met at the start, nose down in the same dirt the ants nest in. The program's own list of what is at risk reads like a wildlife park. Koalas, echidnas, platypuses, turtles. If this fails, none of that disappears overnight. It gets a little worse and then a little worse again, and one summer you notice that nobody sits on the grass anymore. That is not a biosecurity outcome. That is your country quietly changing what it feels like to live in. So here is the modern mirror. A beagle at an airport asks one question. Is something coming in? A row of hives at a wharf asks the second. Is it already here? And a dog on treated ground asks the third. The one you never hear. Did it actually work? For interception gets the story. Verification gets the years, walking back over ground already counted as won, because winning is a claim, and a claim has to be checked. There is a dog on a patch of ground in southeast Queensland. It has already been treated. Banjo is still going. That is not doubt. That is the job. If you want the next one, subscribe. That is the whole ask.